Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another tier list. So, recently I watched HBO's Game of Thrones. I binged it. It's a fantastic show. I would say my overall thoughts, I would give it a 7 out of 10, and that includes the horrible ending. So, I would say most of the show is definitely worth watching, and it's only the really bad ending and some awkward moments in the later seasons that kind of bring it down, and we'll talk about some of that a little bit. And, I feel like with a series with such strong and well-defined characters, it would be perfect for this format, right? So I've done some of these on One Piece, and I figured I could make one on Game of Thrones as well. So we have the usual tiers, S through F. As usual, I will be very selective with the S tier. And I don't know, hopefully there shouldn't be too many in here. I watched it, less than a month ago. So let's get into it. So first up, we have Euron Greyjoy. He is the uncle of I don't know why I don't remember her name, but Theon's sister, and he sort of kind of came in the later seasons and was like, I'm the rightful heir to the Iron Islands. He killed their fucking FUD old codger dad, threw him off the bridge. Yeah, I mean, and his motivation was that he just wanted to get with Cersei, and he ended up actually getting with Cersei, which, I mean, I understand that as a motivation, right? But the fact that he actually succeeded in that, it just kind of, that's an example of a late season thing kind of feeling a little awkward in terms of the writing. Overall, it doesn't really do anything for me. He's kind of like a nothing character. I'm going to give him a D tier. I don't really feel very strongly for him. So, Rickon is the youngest of the Starks, and during the Battle of the Bastards, right at the start, if he had just run Serpentine from Ramsay's arrows, he actually would have survived, right? But it's got to be, it's a TV show, so they can't have him surviving when they need him to die. So he ran straight ahead and got sniped. Overall, he doesn't really, he's not really that, like, he doesn't have very many lines, right? He's just not like a very memorable character. Just give him a C tier. I don't really think much about Rickon. He was the catalyst of maybe the best battle in the series. So this is, I don't know why I always forget her name, but this is the true heir to the Iron Islands, right? And Theon's sister. She's kind of the alpha of the pair. She's cool. She's very kind of gruff and uncouth for sure. But I'm going to come right out and say it. Of all of the factions, I think the Iron Islands is probably my least favorite. Something that I really like about Game of Thrones is that the differences in the factions, they feel kind of like the differences in our world, where like there's like city folk and there's like country boys and there's, all of these different kinds of people. The Iron Islands just kind of feels like, I don't know, like maybe like northern hillbillies, like just no soul, right? Just like none of the spirit of like southern hillbillies and, like southern rednecks or anything like that. And they're just, I don't know, when they're on the screen, I feel like I'm very bored. So she's the best of any of those characters though. So I'll give her a B tier. She has some cool moments for sure when she tries to save Theon when he gets mind broken. So this is, I can't remember his name, but he's the little kid that his village gets raided by wildlings, and he watches his parents die in front of his eyes. And he then joins the Night's Watch, and then Jon has this whole arc where he like befriends the wildlings. And so this kid obviously doesn't like that, so he's part of Sir Alistair's plot to like kill Jon Snow, right? And we end up seeing him get hanged. And we see a kid get hanged. It's pretty intense, right? That's definitely some like TV MA Beyond type stuff. But he was all right. He had kind of like a cool arc, but at the same time, I don't really, I don't know. It's just something felt a little off about it. I'm just going to give him a C tier right next to his similar aged Rickon. Okay, so this is Uncle Benjen, right? And I hate this guy. Because he was so cool at the beginning, like episode 5 or whatever, when he was first introduced. I was like, oh, this guy's so cool. but then he does literally nothing the whole series, and then comes back in like season 6, and his entire contribution to the series is that he has these two like insane Deus Ex Machina moments that are like so cheap and so it's really bad writing. It's really, really bad writing with this guy. I would say it's probably some of the worst writing in the later seasons, but not season 8. And I mean, for that, I'm gonna give him an F tier. It kind of offends me when I think about how Deus Ex Machina he was. He just comes out of nowhere. Like they're in this like thousands and thousands of miles snowy wasteland, and he just shows up at the right time and like saves 2 different people. I'm like, I don't know about that. So it's Grey Worm. I like Grey Worm. He was a slave. He was an Unsullied, which means that he became a eunuch. They chopped it off when he was young, but he was like the best warrior of the Unsullied, right? Of these like slave warriors. And then Daenerys frees him, and he becomes like her basically like her chief warrior, right? Her general of the military. And he's cool, He has a lot of really good scenes. His romance with Missandre is like kind of, it was cute, and I kind of get why they did it, but I don't know, it's a little weird. But he's a monster in the field for sure. He's one of the most capable. Most capable warriors. I'll give him a B tier. Grey Worm's pretty cool. The characters that are going up here, they got to be pretty dang good, right? And we'll get to some of them. So this is Ramsay Bolton, who is, I would say, probably the biggest villain in this series, alongside another character that we'll get to. And this is probably where I should say that I'm not rating characters based on how morally good they are, right? Or like anything like that. It's just how much I liked watching them do what they do. And Ramsay was a really evil bastard, right? I mean, he is a bastard. I didn't even mean to say it like that, but he is the bastard of Roose Bolton. And he tortures Theon. He chops it off. He turns him into kind of this like dribbling slave creature. It was crazy. He turned him into Gollum, basically, from Lord of the Rings. And I felt like he was pretty smart. He took his dad out at the right time, and he had a lot of like schemes and plots. And I like a character who schemes and plots, right? So obviously he's the worst character morally, right? There's like maybe 1 or 2 others that I could say, but I really enjoyed watching him on the screen, right? So I'm going to put him in the B tier. I think I'm probably going to put him top of B tier. I know that's probably crazy to some people, but once again, it's not a moral ranking, right? I'm not ranking him based on how good of a person he was. This guy, I don't know who this is. I can't remember. I don't know. So Missandre is another slave that was rescued by Daenerys and kind of became her like, maybe like her best friend. And she was cool. I like that Daenerys kind of taught her to be a little bit more sassy by the end of everything. And yeah, I mean, I feel like there's not really a lot to say about her. She had a cool arc, she went from a really bad spot to a slightly better spot. So I like Missandre. I'll put her with Grey Worm, they're together as they should be. So with the wolves, they're all awesome, but I don't really know I don't really know which one's which. So I'm just gonna put them in B tier, maybe top of B tier. I like the dogs. Yeah, behind Ramsay. Ramsay was just too impactful of a character. So I love this guy. This is Aemon Targaryen, and he's the biggest old codger in the whole show, right? He just kind of like stares off into space, but every time he talked, it was like so dramatic, and he had such like this ominous aura about him, and you didn't know that he was a Targaryen for like a while, and I think that was pretty cool. But he was the sort of advisor, like what's it called, the Maester of the Night's Watch, and I really liked him. I think that every time he was on the screen, I was like, this guy has like forlorn knowledge, forlorn wisdom. So for that, I'm gonna give him the highest rating. The highest rating that I can possibly give, because he can't go here. He's not that good, but he's an A tier character. I really enjoyed him. So This is I don't remember her name, but she is the sort of current leader of the Mormonts, Jorah, and this guy here, the other one, the dad. And I liked her. I thought she was cool. I thought her first scene where they're like asking for her help was like really cool. But I feel like the show, like, I don't know. I feel like Double R Martin wouldn't really have been like leaned this hard into it, and it kind of felt forced. Like how cool she is, and she's so young. She's just a child, but look at how fierce she is. It's like so fierce. It kind of felt like Marvel tier writing, where it was like so like potent, and she's all right. I don't know. I'm gonna give her a C tier because I like her, but at the same time, I like don't. I felt it was like too much. Look, the children are all in C tier. So we got Cersei. Cersei is like the most important character, right? Like top 5 most important characters. She's in every season. She's important in every season. She is the sort of matriarch of the Lannisters. And, at one point she's queen. At one point she's the princess. At one point, it's like, she's royalty. And she is a psychopath. She is truly maybe the coldest character in the whole show. She is very calculated and flexes a lot. She just kind of flexes her like manipulative ability like all the time. And she's responsible for maybe my favorite scene in the whole show, the Sept explosion, which was just, I was blown away by that. She's super important, right? I got to give her an A tier. I don't think I'm going to give her an S tier, even though she might deserve it. I'm going to give her an A tier above Aemon. And, I don't want to talk too much about it, but she is part of the quadrilogy of the most attractive women in any show. And we'll get to them. And they're all in one show. So, this show. So, this is Jorah's dad. He was the leader of the Night's Watch at the beginning before the mutiny at Clastus Keep. And he was like a super honorable guy, right? He was a good man. Extremely sort of he just represents like what the Night's Watch is actually supposed to be before all of these young chuds kind of muddled it. But I rock with this guy a lot. I can't remember his name. He's Jorah's dad. I think he deserves a B tier. I'm going to put him even above Ramsay at the top of B tier. I think if he was in the show any longer than he was, he would be A, but B tier because he's just a good dude. So these are the like Sand Sisters or whatever, the Dornish like warrior princesses. And I saw online that they got done really dirty in the show, and they were a lot cooler in the books. But as for the show, they were kind of just like archetype characters. They were just like, oh, I'm a strong warrior, fierce warrior woman, but I'm also very sexy, right? It was like kind of like this little girl. They were kind of like just on the nose characters, like very. I feel like the early seasons, like there's so much nuance to the characters, and the writing is so good that characters like these two just really like stand out as like, I don't know, it's just like not as good. I'm gonna give him D tier. I like the moment with Bronn in the cage when she like tricks him and poisons him, but that's the only thing saving them from F tier, honestly, is the fact that they interacted with the GOAT, Bronn. So D tier for them. I'll put him above Euron. This guy sucks. So I feel bad for this guy, Edmund. He was Robb Stark's uncle, and basically after Robb Stark shacked up with the foreign medic girl, they were like, okay, now you have to marry one of the Frey daughters because Robb effed up and doesn't know how to be a freaking general, right? So he was like, I don't want to do that. And eventually he was like, oh, all right, for the family, I'll do it. He was like good about it. He was like, okay, I'll do it. And then the Red Wedding happened. They all died besides him. And then he got just locked up and then eventually like negotiated for with Jaime. But he got dealt such a bad hand. I the whole time I was like, man, that sucks for that guy. So I'm going to give him a B tier. I'll put him like behind the dog, I guess. That's good. So these two, I actually really like these two. They came kind of later in the seasons, and the sister was kind of like the hunter and like the protector, and then this kid had like the visions. Like he was kind of further along in the journey than Bran. And I'll say that before they came, I thought Bran's storyline was maybe like the most boring. I was like, oh, let's just get back to Tyrion, right? But once these two came, I actually got a little bit more interested in it and found that I was more engaged with that side of the plot, right? So got to give them credit for that. I'm going to give them both B tier. He died, and then I think she died eventually too. Can't remember. But they were both very cool. I will give them B tier, maybe behind Edmund. Yeah, like right here, and she was even a little bit cooler, so maybe there. That's good. Man, look at B tier. B tier is stacked so far. There's a lot of pretty good characters, right? So this is Viserys, I think. Wait. Viserys is the brother at the beginning. This isn't Dracarys. This is one of the other dragons, because I think Dracarys is, that's Dracarys. So that's the main dragon. This is the other dragon. And I think I'm about to stack B tier even more. I think for the fact that the dragons were so, what's the word? They were so, it's just like the best dragon effect that I've like ever seen in a live action show, right? Like these dragons, I was like, oh my goodness, especially at the start when they were little babies. That was one of the best scenes right at the end of the first season when they hatched. It was just like shocking, right? I'm going to give the dragons a B tier. Maybe we'll like keep the animals together, you know? I mean, they're very different obviously, but all right. So this is Sir Barristan Selmy, and I love this guy, right? I'm such a sucker for like the old head warrior type, like the humble old head warrior. And this guy had the reputation of being like the best warrior in the whole land, right? And he kind of went out with a wet fart though, and that was the writer's fault, the show writers, not Double R. Martin's, because it got to the point where they were past the books, right? So it feels like they kind of just killed him off, even though that scene was sick, where he to save Grey Worm, he took down like 10 of those mask guys, the gold mask guys. But I don't know, something about his aura prior to that just makes me think that he would have been able to clear that whole lobby, that whole room, right? But he couldn't, and he ended up dying, and he kind of got like stabbed in the side, and I kind of thought he might live, but ended up dying. And it kind of felt like they kind of just shoehorned a really important character. They just killed him off, right, in kind of a cheap way. But just for his aura alone, I'm going to give him A tier. I'll put him between these two. He was awesome. And at the start when he like quits, when he's like, you know, you're trying to have me retire. I know what you're doing. You're playing your dumb political game, Cersei. I'm not having it. I'm going to leave. And he left, and he went to Daenerys, and that was that. So the Mountain, Hafthor Bjornsson, Gregor Clegane, 1,100-pound deadlift. Amazing character, right? I mean, once again, same with Ramsay. Horrible person, but amazing character. The Intimidator, right? And his fight with Oberyn, and when he crushed Oberyn's head, it was just, every time he was on the screen, even at the beginning when he cuts the horse's head off, I was like, you know, he's for real, right? This guy is like the scariest character in the whole show, and he is. Well, there may be one character that I would want to face less, but we'll get to her. So the Mountain is awesome. Well, maybe I would not, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. I'll loop back to that in a minute. The Mountain is awesome. Such an imposing presence, obviously, in the show. I'll give him an A tier. Maybe he's going to end up like low A, but he's just too cool not to have an A, right? Okay, so we got two huge ones coming up here. I'm going to talk about them for a while. So let's take a little sippy of my bubbly sparkling lime water here. Okay, so Daenerys Targaryen. Second, third most important character in the show. She is the Queen of Dragons. She is Khaleesi, the Mother of Dragons, Khaleesi. She, gets sold into slavery and horrible things done to her by Khal Drogo, but then she eventually comes to love him. You hear that? You hear that? There's a bird outside. All right. But yeah, so she eventually comes to love Khal Drogo, and she is just one of the most important characters. She has a lot of my favorite scenes in the whole show. I'm not going to be able to focus on that. I'm going to close the window. Get back to you in a minute. Okay, I'm back. I closed the window. So let's get back into it. So Daenerys, uh, Mother of Dragons, Khaleesi, she is one of the most important characters. She goes from being a subjugated broodmare, basically, to leading the biggest army in the series. She frees all the slaves in Slaver's Bay, and there's that whole arc that's like very sort of drawn out and long, kind of in the mid seasons, and then eventually she lays siege to King's Landing. And here is definitely my most controversial opinion of the whole series. The one thing that is in the last season that I have mixed feelings on, that everybody else seems to just universally hate, is the fact that she went AWOL. Well, she tweaked and she attacked everybody, right? And I don't know what it is. It's a combination between this sounds so stupid. Her facial expressions right before she does it, the way the actress I don't know, it just gets to me. And the fact that leading up to that, like the season and a half leading up to that moment, she was the one that was like, I'm just gonna go to King's Landing and nuke them all. And then Missandei would be like, well, maybe you should just stay here and handle Slaver's Bay. And then she goes, I'm just gonna go to King's Landing and nuke them all. And then Jon Snow goes, well, it's not the right time for that. And then she goes, well, and then 5 episodes later, I'm gonna go to King's Landing and I'm gonna nuke them all. And then Tyrion goes, well, maybe we can have a more diplomatic solution and a more strategic solution to kill less people, right? And I feel like everybody kind of associates her with as this noble character because she freed all the slaves. I think she just did that because that's what she wanted to do. And she felt that that was the right thing to do at the time, and that was her mental state at the time. And so she did it. And that was kind of her creed in the middle seasons of the show, was to free these slaves and change the unjust ways of the East, right? And I liked it. I liked that part of the show too. And I think the fact that if Missandei had been flayed or something, or this dragon had died right before or something like that had triggered it, I think everybody would agree that that would be a great scene, right? But it was just the fact that it did feel kind of out of nowhere, and it was why is she doing this? But something about it, I am a sympathizer to that scene, and I think that it doesn't detract from her character as much as a lot of people say it does. I think that her death is kind of very lukewarm. Obviously, Jon Snow, and that's another thing too. That romance was so ham-fisted. Oh my goodness, it's gonna make points be knocked from both of them. Honestly, Jon Snow stood on the cliff and looked brooding, and then she was like, "Kneel to me, Jon Snow," and then he did not kneel, and she was like, "Oh, he's sexy," and then that was it, right? That was how the romance formed. It just felt kind of really ham-fisted, and it definitely makes them lose points. I'm going to give her an A tier. She might deserve S. I'm going to put her right... she's so much more important of a character than Barristan Selmy, even though I think I like Barristan Selmy more. But I'm going to give her an A tier behind Cersei. No S tiers yet, but we're about to get to one, because we have Tyrion Lannister. And frankly speaking, Tyrion Lannister is the best character in the show. Every time, him being on the screen... Every time he's on the screen, it's the best part of the show, right? At least for the first 5 seasons. And then, once again, the show writers just show themselves as lukewarm amateur writers, because they completely one-note the heck out of his character. They just make him this jokester and they don't make him... He's so smart in the first seasons. He's so smart. He's so cunning. And he's so that's kind of a Lannister trait, right? Is that they're very brainy, and he was the brainiest of them all. But they cooked him in the later seasons. But that doesn't stop him from being an S tier character. He has some of the best scenes in the whole show. He has some of the best lines. He has some of the most impact. And when he's on the screen, I'm just the most interested when I'm watching, right? So S tier character for sure. I think there may be a couple that end up above him, but he's amazing. I mean, let me think of some moments, right? I'm trying to think of moments that are him and not Braun, because Braun is like my favorite character. But there is obviously the Battle of the Blackwater when he like, you know, punches so hard above his weight when Joffrey's like cowering in fear. But yeah, there's a bunch of good moments. Tyrion, S tier for sure. So this guy's Maul. He was when Tyrion was imprisoned in the sky cells of the Vale, right? The Eyrie. I think the Vale or the Reach or something is the Reach of Sky or whatever. The Eyrie is like that sky castle, and with Catelyn's sister is the. We'll get to her. He was imprisoned there because Catelyn brought him, and this guy was the jail guard, and he was obviously, mentally deficient, but he's very funny, and he smacked Tyrion with the club, and then Tyrion was like, "Hey, I'll give you jewels. Help me out here." He's like, "There's no jewels," and eventually, when Bronn, flexed as hard as he did as they were walking out, he got his jewels, right? So this guy's pretty funny, I'm gonna give him a C tier because he's in like one episode and he is not, it's like he's like such a small character, but I don't like him that much to even give him a B tier as a small character, like I would with, say, this guy, with this Mormont guy, but I'll put him like, let's just put him at the bottom. That's fine. So Sansa is a character that I can really respect, She was kind of the lamb at the start, and even, all the way up through the Ramsay stuff, she was kind of like the lamb. And she is a good character, She's very well written, and I think that she didn't suffer as much in the later seasons as other characters did. They kind of kept her writing a little bit more intact, and I think she's a good character. I'm going to give her an A tier, probably like above the mountain and below the... She, I'm trying to think. You just get a sense to feel bad for her, right? Because she gets married to literally the two most evil characters in the whole show. And it was just nice to kind of see her at the end sort of get this like little bit of reprieve, even though the writing around that reprieve was pretty bad in season 8, as I'm sure you all know. This guy's drinking from Robb Stark's skull. I remember that. He's one of the Walder boys. I don't know, D tier. I don't even know who this is. So, another character that I really, really like, Beric Dondarrion. I love the way that Game of Thrones handles the fantasy elements, because it is such a grounded and realistic show. That is the foundation that is built. And then the way it just sprinkles in a little bit of mysticism. It just sprinkles it in, right? Like the paprika in this stew, right? And it's so good. And this guy is the strongest example of that. Like, he is like you pour the whole bottle of paprika, because he is this dude who has been killed 6 times. And the Lord of Light, which is, we'll talk more about him with the Lord of Light with some other characters, but the Lord of Light, which seems to be the realest god in the whole thing, likes this guy, right? He just likes Beric. And so he keeps bringing him back. And we'll get to Thoros. Thoros is like the preacher guy that kind of like conducts the ritual to bring him back. But, all these other characters are like, can you bring me back? Can you bring me back? Can you bring this person back, right? Bring him back once. And the Lord of Light's like, nah. But this guy gets brought back 6 times. And what is it about him, right? Like, there's mysteries. There's mysteries to be had with this guy. Oops. A lot of characters to rank, but we'll get to him. There's just mysteries to be had with this guy, and he's awesome. Every time he's on screen, his like cool relationship with Sandor, and he's awesome. I love this guy. S tier for sure. Behind Tyrion, but S tier. Another dog. Was this Robb's dog? I think Robb's was black. And they cut his head off, sadly, at the Red Wedding. So this guy, that's Sam's dad, Samwell. This guy is the leader of House Tarly. And the thing about this guy is There's a lot of characters like this Mormont guy, and I mean we can even talk about some more later. I won't get too much into it, but like this guy here, the Veil guy, and then maybe some more examples. Let's see. Who am I looking at here? Even like Mance Rayder, like these like old head characters that are like they're all about. Oh, this guy is the biggest example. The I can't remember, but he's like Rob's old buddy. There are all these characters that are like old heads, and they're Barristan, a good example, that are like honor bound, and that's like their trait, right? They're like, I am honor bound, like that's my trait. I have been a knight for a bajillion years, and I have never broken an oath, right? It's all about the oaths. And this guy, he just falls so flat for me, right? Because he's just an asshole, right? Like, you can have all your oaths, but you can still be an old fud codger and just like, irredeemable. And so when Daenerys fucking cooks him alive with Dracarys, I don't feel bad at all. I really don't feel bad at all. I feel a little bit bad for the older brother because he's like, sigh, I gotta stand with my dad, right, and die this way. But this guy, fuck him, man, fuck him. This guy's awesome. He's John's buddy at the wall. One of a few, right? It's this guy and then these two. This guy's my favorite. We'll get to him. But this guy rocks. He's just like, he's with John the whole time. He like understands that John is trying to do the best he can, and like the situation is just like so immense and like so beyond like these like group of 50 dudes, but he like trusts in John so much. I find that really like cool, and he gets an A tier. I mean, he's just with him. He's just with him. Just bottom of A tier is fine. So, Sir Davos Seaworth is a character that I'm in love with him, right? He's amazing. He serves Stannis Baratheon. We'll get to Stannis. Stannis. This guy is he's a kind man, right? Like of all the characters, you know how like we were talking about, who were we talking about? Daenerys, and we were like, I was saying that people like think that Daenerys is like this like good soul in this like world of terrible people. It's Davos. Davos is that. He cared so much for Shireen, and he distrusted the Red Witch, and for good reason. And he was a smuggler, right? And that, I think that is a really nice, like very careful selection of his past, because if you're a pirate, if you're a bandit, even if you're a knight, what does that involve a lot of? Killing. It involves a lot of killing. There's a lot of killing in this show, right? A lot of murder. But smuggling, you can kind of use your silver tongue. There's not a lot of killing involved. And he doesn't really he doesn't kill a lot of people. He doesn't talk about killing a lot of people. He's just kind of in the world, and I really like him a lot. I think he probably deserves S tier, maybe. I'm gonna put him very, very top of A, even above Cersei right now. He's just great. I think my favorite scene of him is when he's on the island and he's like waving because he got stranded after the Blackwater, and he's like, help me, and the sailors come, and he's obviously starving, and they're like, this is an insane example of loyalty, even though it pays off. They're like, who do you serve? Because this huge battle just happened, so there's probably scattered amounts of different people on both sides everywhere. And he takes a moment, and he's like, the one true king, Stannis Baratheon. And they obviously rocked with that, so they saved him. But he's sick. He's just a sick character. So I'll give him even above Cersei in A tier. So this guy, literally in the show for 6 minutes maybe, he was one of the Second Son mercenary leaders before this guy killed him and swore allegiance to Daenerys. He is a nothing character, and he doesn't offend me, so I'm gonna give him a D tier. But man, he ain't nothing good about this guy. He don't do nothing good for the show. He's just there as a prop, basically. Dog time. So this is, what's her name? Catherine? She's twisted. She was the kennel owner's daughter and Ramsay's sort of, hookup, right? And she got really jealous when Sansa came, and eventually it was the funniest scene. It's the funniest death in the whole show when Theon just throws her off the battlements and he goes, ah, splat. Yeah, she was evil. She was whatever. And she's not like as entertaining or as cunning as Ramsay. I'll just give her a D tier. I don't really feel comfortable putting her any higher than that. Unlike this guy who did these two who like I can't even like think of what they ever did, but this guy drank out of Robb Stark's skull. But like she is mostly negative in my mind, so I'll put her in D tier. So this is the old codger that Euron throws off the bridge. He was the current ruler of the Iron Islands. Fuck this guy, man. He deserves an F. You must pay the iron price. Okay, there are characters like Brienne who are out there actually paying the iron price over and over and over again, while this old fud just sits in his like dark castle and broods. F tier for you, sir. So this guy was cool. He was the sort of like Knights captain of the Eyrie, and he kind of gets like manipulated or not. He just kind of gets outdone mentally by Littlefinger, but I don't know. I got a good vibe from him. I got like a sense that he was kind of like a straightforward, sort of hardworking, but not like arrogant kind of guy. I mean, he was arrogant in the sense that he knew he was strong and he knew that his warriors were strong, but he wasn't like annoying arrogant like a lot of other characters. So he can get a B tier, just like maybe bottom of B tier. Seemed cool. Okay. So Brienne of Tarth is possibly my favorite character in the show. She is... I said that Davos was like the honorable one. Davos is kind of like a realist too, whereas Brienne is like a horrible optimist. She is just like so like lawful good in everything that she does, but at the same time she is like maybe like power scaling wise the strongest character in the show. She is so capable. I know that was kind of the writing of the TV writers for her to actually be able to defeat Sandor, but that's one part that I liked. I thought that was great, and the fact that she just goes to hell and back for anybody that she is serving, and all she's ever wanted to do is like be like a humble servant of the realm, right? And she's awesome, and I love her relationship with Jaime. It's like the most real relationship in the whole show. It feels like the best written one in the whole show, even though they don't like have a real relationship. It's just like the time that they spent together in those moments are just so like candid and earnest to me that she's absolutely S tier. I'm gonna put her above Tyrion. I love Tyrion, but I think that's good right now. She's so far my favorite character in the show. I think there's one character who might go above, and it's going to be a very controversial pick, but it is what it is. It's my list. So Ned Stark is sort of the catalyst for the whole show. It's the main character of the first season. I love him. How can you not, right? He was like a stubborn old FUD honor guy, but he just did it in all of like the coolest like flex ways that you could possibly do it. And he was such a good man, and he was really looking out for his family, but also trying to look out for the realm. He was like the Spider-Man meme, like holding the train. He was just doing too much, and eventually, quickly, it came back to bite him, and he got executed, right? But in the first season, too, that was an intense scene. That's a great scene at the end of episode 9 of the first season. Amazing character, potentially deserving of S, but I'm going to put him in A tier. I'll put him... I love Barristan Selmy. That's the thing, right? I'm going to put him here. He probably deserves to be above Barristan, but I just have a soft spot for this guy, so he's going here. Okay. Time for me to get mad. This guy was this like really cool preacher guy that he had this like covenant for the Seven, or no, the Lord of Light? No, it was the Seven. He had like this like cool like coven in the hills, and it was such a nice time, and Sandor came, and he was like there, like he was chopping wood for him, and it was just such a nice vibe. And the whole time we're like, okay, these people are gonna die horribly, right? That's like the whole point of all of this. And I think Double R. Martin, if he had written these characters, would have subverted it, and he would have had them live, and that would have been like maybe the changing of the times, right? But of course the fucking TV show writers, what are they, David and Dan? They're so bad. They're so bad at writing, you guys. They really are. I think, I mean, I might be tooting my horn. I might have been able to do better because they just get killed in such a like lukewarm, boring way. And then Sandor goes and he meets up with the Brotherhood and they kill the guys. And it's just like, there's no intrigue. Guys, there's no intrigue to it at all. There's no intrigue. And I like this guy a lot. I mean, I wish it would have been better for him. Give him an A tier, like maybe like there. That's fine. This guy was cool. I need a drink. Got pissed off there. So this guy was cool, right? He was like the Starks. Was he the Maester? He might have been the Maester for the Starks at Winterfell in earlier seasons. And when Theon did his old stupid little rebellion, he didn't yield. You know, he yielded, but he didn't like mentally yield, and you could like obviously see that. And he was just a good dude, you know, good dude to the end. And he dies by the God's Wood, and that was like a really nice scene when they all come and they see him off. Gets a B tier, you know. I'll put him like right here with Mormont. So this is the young Dornish prince who is set to marry the Lannister girl. And he was kind of a non-character. You know, Bronn like beats him up a little bit. And then he loses his girl because she gets the kiss of death or whatever. So I'm going to put him. I'll give him a C tier. He just doesn't really, you know, like whatever about him. This guy, I think, is in the flashback. Is this young Rob? I don't remember who this is. I'm going to be honest. He's in the flashback, I'm pretty sure, in the later seasons that Bran, like, sees through his visions, but I don't know. And in the same vein, I don't remember who this is either. Was he a wildling? He looks like he might have been a wildling, but I hope that there's not going to be too many more I don't knows, but I don't know this guy either. So, Arya Stark. Another very important character. And I would say the character that is least... I said Sansa was kind of like in the middle on this, but I would actually say Arya is the character that is the least nerfed by the later seasons. I actually really like the whole arc with the faceless people and the scary like girl who was like a little bit older than her that was like chasing her down. The faceless assassin or whatever. And I like how after all of that she became kind of like very weird and kind of uncanny and kind of cold to everybody. I thought that was like pretty cool. And the way the actress did that was really, she knocked it out of the park with the role. And, she gets with Gendry, which is like kind of weird. It's like kind of a weird scene, but I don't know. I felt like it was like a nice sort of, it made sense, right? I don't know. Am I weird? Maybe. I thought it was all right. And, I don't know. I like Arya as a character. Obviously, I do. Everybody should, or everybody, I assume everybody who watches the show does. So, A tier. I'll put her. I think she probably deserves very top of A tier, honestly, even above Davos, because she is a joy to watch on the screen. This is Marjorie Tyrell. I mentioned earlier this quadrilogy of the most attractive women. Oh, I missed Daenerys. Daenerys is in there too. So it's these three, and then there's one more to come later, but. I mean, what is there to say? She is the sort of princess of the, what are they called? Oh my God, what are they called? The House Tyrell, but I can't remember the kingdom area name, but she marries into the Lannister family twice, Joffrey and then Tommen, and she's a really good schemer. But then she kind of just gets gimped by the whole religion arc. And I have very mixed feelings about the religion arc, about the sept and all that. I thought it was pretty mid, honestly. But I'll talk about it a little bit more with more relevant characters. But what I'll say about Marjorie is that she started off very strong. And then she kind of dwindled out as a character, as many do. But her dwindling was a little bit more subtle and a little bit less stark. I didn't mean like that. A little bit less dramatic of a drop-off in character quality. She's cool. B tier. Obviously very attractive. Maybe like, that's probably fine. Okay, so Oberyn Martell. This is a character that, in terms of, I've mentioned this concept with One Piece, but in terms of time on the screen versus how much I liked them and how much they moved me, Oberyn Martell has the best ratio because he was only in like 7 episodes or something, but he was amazing. The aura he commanded, right? I feel like he is also like maybe top of the list power scaling. Like, I don't know if he could beat Brienne. I don't know if he could beat I don't know if he could beat Barristan, right? Maybe. I think he even mentions like he praises Barristan. Like, he's like, Barristan's not here, so you guys suck now. But he's like a very like exotic kind of character. He's very sexual. He goes both ways. He is like a free spirit, and he's an insane warrior. And he had the mountain, right? He had him dead to rights. He could have just stuck the spear in his head and got it done with, but he was too emotionally invested in the fight, and that's what got him killed. That's what got his head exploded. So, Oberyn Martell, amazing character, definitely deserves an A tier. I'll put him just behind Barristan, actually. I think that's a good spot for him. Okay, these two. So this is Pip. I can't remember this guy's name, even though I like him more. It's not that Pip did anything wrong for me to say that. It's just that this guy had, like, maybe, in my opinion, the coolest last stand of the whole show. So, let me set the scene. The Wildling army is coming. They're coming to the wall. There's 50 people at Castle Black, or maybe 100, and then it becomes 50 when they lose 50. But him and 5 men were tasked with going into the tunnel and holding the tunnel, making sure no one comes through the gate. And who comes through the gate? It's a freaking giant, right? And so that's like a really epic like end of episode moment where he's like facing down this giant, this like farm boy who got like sent to the wall, and he's like facing down this wildling giant. And then later when they have to go out, they find the 5 corpses and the giant. They fought the giant to a stalemate, which I think is just like, it's such a cool moment. This guy, he punched so far above his weight. I'm going to give him an A tier for that. I'll give him top of B. And I'm going to put Pip, who was also just like Jon Snow's buddy. They were both Jon Snow's buddies. I'm going to give Pip, this guy gets boosted because of that scene. Wait, okay, hold on a second. I like this guy more than this guy, so I have to put him here. And I'm going to give Pip just like a high B tier. He died by getting crossbowed, and, he's cool too. Like, I'm not trying to discredit Pip. It's just that this guy was around for a lot longer and kind of had more of an impact, and then this guy just had that amazing scene. So I think I'm going to do it like that. So Lysa is Catelyn Stark's psychotic sister who is obsessed with Littlefinger, and she breastfeeds her kid even though he's like 14, and that was really weird. And she was just a psycho, right? Like, Littlefinger, don't put it in crazy, but he put it in crazy, so he had to throw her in the hole, the moon hole, and she plummeted to her death, right? But no love lost for her falling in the hole. She was weird. She was definitely made me very unnerved when she was on screen. D tier for you. Maybe like above like all these though. Maybe like, yeah, like there. Okay, so this guy, I have such mixed feelings about this guy. So he was this might be kind of a lengthy explanation. So he was the second son mercenary leader who killed this guy and the other one to basically give the second sons, like, to declare his allegiance to Daenerys. And it was just because he wanted to hit, right? Like, that was the whole point. And I feel like similar to this girl, it was just kind of like Marvel tier writing where it was like so on the nose and so like, look at how cool this guy is. He fights that guy on the horse and then he pees on him or whatever. And it just kind of felt weird. I didn't really like it. He felt kind of just overdone. Like, the show was just trying to push him way, way too hard. And I think for that, I'm going to give him a C tier. Probably like, maybe like, I'll just give him top of C. I don't really know how to feel about him. He's okay, but at the same time, the show tried to force him way too hard. So So this was the wildling girl that got captured and then eventually kind of became one of Bran's like homies as they were traveling. And she was all right, she kind of always had like a heart, and she ended up kind of pouring that love to Bran as like kind of like a pseudo mom figure for a little bit. And I like the scene where I like her death because, well, I don't like it because she died, but Ramsay was so slick with it, right? Because they're like, she's trying to pretend that she's seducing him, and she like very dramatically reaches for the blade, and then Ramsay just no telegraph, just boom, right in the neck, right? And that was, Ramsay clued in, and so she was all right character. I'm gonna give her B tier, probably, maybe with the rest of the Bran associates, even though there's one that's going to be much higher than the rest of them. Okay, so this is Pycelle, Grand Maester Pycelle, and I think he is actually my least favorite character in the whole show. I am shocked he was able to live as long as he did up to the beginning or end of season 6 when the Sept explodes. He was just, I think it's because he was just so quick to always switch sides and like say, oh, I didn't say that or whatever. He was just such a shitter. Definitely my least favorite character, I would say, in the whole show. I'm going to give him the bottom of F tier honors. I don't think anybody is going to trump this guy for bottom of F. Okay. So Catelyn Stark is the mother of the Starks, wife of Jon Snow. What did I just say? She didn't really like Jon Snow because he's a bastard. She kind of, there's some nuance there, but wife of Ned Stark, and she's okay. I have mixed feelings about her. She obviously cared a lot about her kids, but in saying that, with the whole Robb arc and the whole letting Jaime go, that's like in a video game when your teammate's throwing, right? Because she had all the power. She had the most important man in the kingdom, all the kingdoms, in captivity, and she let him go on a promise to release the daughters, one of which Jaime didn't even have, and he was just lying about having. And she just relinquished all of the power because of like the love of the mother or whatever, right? And it was just, she just threw so hard. And I'm not saying Robb didn't throw either, because he threw too, but I have mixed feelings about her. I'm gonna give her a C tier. I'm gonna give her top of C above the forced dude bro, because I like her, but I don't like her. I don't like the actions that she chose to take. So this was the actress that Arya sort of betrayed the faceless people to kind of be like, all right, I'm not going to kill you. And she was cool. She seemed to be like really care about her acting, and that was kind of like what endeared Arya to her. And then she ended up kind of helping Arya when Arya got stabbed. She can get a B tier, probably low B, like maybe like, yeah, that's probably good. So this is Craster at Craster's Keep, and this guy is one of the most effed up characters. He has daughters, and then he makes more daughters with his daughters. And if they're sons, he takes the sons out into the woods and sacrifices them to the White Walkers so the White Walkers don't bother him. So he was obviously one demented MFer, but at the same time, he was pretty funny with all the scenes that he was in, and he was just so over the top crazy that I can't like give him an F or a D tier. Am I going to give Craster a B tier? No, I'll give him a C tier. Low C. Put him above Maul, I guess. He was just funny, right? It's one of those cases, again, where of course he's a horrible person, but when he was on the screen, I was like, oh my God, this guy again. Okay, so Podrick Payne. Long schlong pod, right? He has a comically large schlong, apparently. He is one of my favorite characters. I really like his time with Tyrion and Bronn, and then his time with Brienne. And I like how this is such a subtle detail, but I really like how his hair changes. It really feels like he grows up. He has this like kind of boy cut at the start, and then by the end he kind of has like nice sort of young man longer hair. And Pod is amazing. Like, let me look at this real quick. Let me just kind of scan these, because I like to be really selective with the S tier, so I'm contemplating here. I think he might fall just out of the S tier. I think he is the best A tier, though, even above Arya. Yeah. Pod is awesome. So, I like how he kind of like, he wants to train, so he trains with Bjorn. You know, that's the best person you can train with. So this is like the Prince of Dorne, Oberyn's older brother, and another character that I've heard that was a lot better in the books, but as it stands in the show, he was kind of just a background character that didn't really do anything, but because he was sick, he just kind of sat in his wheelchair. But he could have been like a master schemer, like Tyrion, but he really wasn't. He kind of just got manipulated, and you know, he doesn't really do anything for me. I'm gonna give him a D tier alongside his Sand sisters. So Dracarys, the main dragon. I think that Dracarys is maybe the coolest fictional dragon that I can think of. And the way that Daenerys says his name, and that's the cue to like just torch everybody, he's going to get a high ranking for me. Where did I put the other? I put the other dragon here. I'm going to put Dracarys at the top, above the wolves. The dragons are protecting the doggos. I like this. So Bran, man, I got a lot to say about Bran, right? In the early seasons, I really liked him. I thought he was kind of like a cool underdog character. But then the show leaned way too much into that and ended up making him the freaking king at the end, which was so stupid. Tyrion's whole line about being like what is it? A good king has a good story. Or whatever. That was so stupid, man. And he was literally like a husk. He was a husk, right? How is like this guy who just like sees visions and like doesn't talk ever gonna be the freaking king of the realm? A king needs to be charismatic. He's not charismatic. And he's a cool character. He's obviously like the most important character in the show, but I would say he's probably the worst example of the writing in the last season. And for that, I mean, I'm going to give him like a C tier, low C. I'm going to put him above Craster, just below Craster, just to insult him because he sucks. He actually sucks as a written character. So this is the pirate guy. He's funny. He's buddies with Davos, and you know, I mean, he's obviously not a good person, but every time he's on the screen, he makes me laugh. So B tier, maybe above Ramsay. Right there is good. So this guy was interesting. He took over the brothel after Littlefinger fled, and he kind of like he slept with Oberyn, and like he was very promiscuous. Obviously swung for the same side, and he was cool though. You know, he slept with Loras too, and like he confessed to the Sept that like, oh yeah, this guy, like, you know, he's about it. He's about the butt stuff. But I don't know, he was kind of an interesting side character that kind of maybe was a little bit more interesting than his very minor position in the series. And for that, I'm going to give him a low B. I think he barely, because if this guy's B tier, this guy barely squeaks in as well. We'll do that. So this was the witch that was like, Daenerys was like, bring back Khal Drogo. And so she brought him back as like a husk, and then she like roasted Daenerys and was like, you know, they already did horrible stuff to me, and you know, you asked for this and all that. And even though she's like part of one of the coolest scenes in the whole show with the dragons being born or hatched, I can't really give her much higher than a D tier, honestly. She, you know, I don't know. Put her there. Ed Sheeran jump scare. So this is the schemer of Dorne. Was Oberyn's lover, and then sort of devoted her whole character to kind of scheming and plotting against the Lannisters. And she gave not Lyanna, she gave the young one the kiss of death, and this one right here, and she, you know, she was fierce, and I can respect her for that, but at the same time, I didn't really feel bad for her when Cersei did what she did in the end, right? Cersei got the last laugh in the biggest way, and it was pretty brutal. So I'm gonna give her a D tier. She can go with her crew here. Man, this is proof. I'm gonna move him down too, just for the sake of it. This is proof right here that the Dorne storyline was just a kind of a big stinker in the show. I didn't even mean for this to happen, but they're stinkers. So this is the prostitute that was in Winterfell and then went to King's Landing to make more money or whatever, and she ended up getting torture porn by Joffrey, like shot through a bunch with arrows. I don't know. And you know, um, Joffrey's an evil bastard. I don't know. She can get a C tier. She was like kind of cool. I don't know. Put her above Bran because Bran sucks. So this is Samuel Tarly. I find it interesting that Double R. Martin wrote a character, an overweight sidekick to the hero, named Sam as well. And as much as I love Samuel Tarly, he is certainly no Samwise Gamgee, right? It's not even close. But I do like Samuel Tarly still. I think that he kind of like, he's a character that kind of almost gets better as time goes on because he grows. He learns to, he learns how to exist in this world. And I quite enjoy him. Obviously an A-tier character. I'll put him next to Aemon because they were buddies, right? These two were friends. So this is Jon Snow's first fling. She was the wildling girl, and they had that night in the cave. And I mean, he put it in crazy, right? And I said that about Lysa as well, but Jon put it in crazy, and he took 3 arrows for it. But she was okay. She died at the fight. Put her with Craster, whatever. So this is the Red Witch, and she is my number 1 in the quadrilogy, right? We can stop talking about the quadrilogy now, but just know she's number 1, even though her real form is a dilapidated hag raven, but it's beside the point. She was a cool character. I liked the way she manipulated Stannis, and I liked the way that she was always using to, looking for the advantage in the manipulation game. Not as good of a manipulator as Cersei, but just for the looks and just for her being like a kind of ominous, spooky kind of character, I'll give her bottom of A tier, I guess. Is she above these? Yeah, she is. So Theon is a character that at first I was like, I hate you so much, Theon. And I still hated him. But then what Ramsay did to him, I was like, oh man, does he even deserve all that? He killed those 2 farm kids, so he definitely still deserved it. But at the time though, I was just like, oh man, this is brutal to watch. And then when he jumped off the boat and then he came back to save, it was shitty writing in the end, right? But I don't like you, Theon. I really don't. I'll give you plus 1 point for throwing this lady off the bridge or off the battlements, but Theon, I'm not a fan. I'll give you like below Bran. That's saying something, but I'm going to put you here. I can't really put you any lower. You have a lot of good moments, but in truth, Walder Frey is maybe the funniest schemer, the funniest like codger. I mean, he orchestrated the Red Wedding, which is like the most intense, memorable scene of the whole show. But maybe it's just less intense, and it's certainly memorable, but less intense because I don't really like Robb or Catelyn that much. But Walder was a schemer. He didn't like the fact that Robb chose to marry this foreign hussy instead of one of his daughters. So he killed them all in his house. And, Arya gets revenge, and I don't know. I'll give him like a C tier, maybe next to Craster. These two, I feel like these two would probably get along. So Sir Alistair of the Night's Watch was a character that he was kind of Jon Snow's ultimate op at the Wall. He was kind of a... He was such a hardhead, right? He was such like a conservative, like against the wildlings, against Jon like going south, against Jon going north. He just didn't want to see Jon win because Jon was like the prodigy, and he ended up orchestrating this plot to kill Jon Snow, and only because Jon Snow was brought back by the Lord of Light that his plan failed. Where did I put the kid? Right here. I'll put him. These two can be together because they schemed in the end. This was Daenerys' first friend, kind of like how... Where's Missandre? Kind of like how Missandre was in the later seasons. This was like the first one. She got killed in... What's the first... Asai? The first city they go to with the ghoul, right? Where's the ghoul? I saw him earlier. Hold on. Where is he? This guy right here with this guy. She dies there, I think. And, she was okay. C tier. Like right there is fine. So Gendry. I like Gendry a lot. I like the fact that he really just kind of wanted to be a smith. And I really liked that he was... he's pretty strong, right? Like, he was kind of like a tank in himself. He used a warhammer, right? Like, you got to be strong to use a warhammer over a sword. But he was cool. I mentioned it earlier. I might be weird for this, but I kind of like how him and Arya got together in the end. And that kind of just seemed like maybe a show that is not as direct and uncensored as Game of Thrones wouldn't like. They would just hint at that, but they did a lot more than hint at it. So Gendry was cool. A tier for Gendry. I like him a lot. Probably low A, maybe. Like I'm gonna split these two up, but I'll put Gendry there. Davos saves him. The witch was gonna kill him, but Davos saves him because Davos. Love you, Davos. So we've got, I think this is Corrin Halfhand. He was like a legendary warrior of the Night's Watch, and he Jon Snow kills him. The wildlings like have them captive, and then he attacks Jon, and then Jon kills him. But it was all like some little scheme to like get the word out or whatever, right? So he was a cool character. He seemed like a good dude, kind of similar to the first to Mormont here. He was like a true Night's Watch kind of guy, right? So I'll put him with Mormont. These two can be together. This is the Mountain post-op. I just, when I rated the Mountain, I rated them together, so put them together. This is Ilan Payne, the Executioner. This guy has the grumpiest grumpy cat face you will ever see in any fiction, nonfiction, live action, animated or otherwise. His grumpy face is just so intense. He's so grumpy. And, he cut Jon Snow's head off. Or not, I keep saying Jon Snow for Ned Stark. He cut Ned Stark's head off, and he was kind of just this, like, grumpy man, right? And I don't know, for being a grumpster, I don't think I can rate you that lowly. Maybe here with these three. Maybe these three would get along. Ooh, nightmare rotation right there. So this guy was kind of like Robb Stark's last bastion after Robb was killed and everybody else, and the Starks like lost the war basically. This guy was holding on to that castle. And he went out with a bang, right? When like Brienne was like leaving and they were leaving with the boat, he was like, I'm not leaving. I'm going to like fight to the death. That's what he did. And he ended up fighting to the death. So I can respect it. Give him an A tier, maybe right there. Oh, sorry, B tier. So this guy, I like this guy. Pycelle was the maester before, and then this guy, he fixed the mount. Well, he fixed him. He turned him into a demon, but he kind of pseudo revived the mountain, and then I think he made the hand for Jaime, and he's kind of like Pycelle is like the, like council of medicine guy, whereas this guy is like the back alley like medicine dealer, right? And I liked him. I liked that Cersei kind of took him in and like made him her guy, and had him promoted to Pycelle's role after he died. He was cool. I found him an intriguing character, so I'll give him an A tier, maybe right there. Another doggo. Get between the dragons for safety. Doggos. Okay, Bronn. So Bronn, I said there was going to be one character that might beat Brienne. There's actually probably two characters that might beat Brienne, and Bronn is certainly one of them. Maybe even three. We'll get there. So I'm glad I didn't put Pod in A tier, because I think there's going to be three characters that probably filled this out. I might have to even drop one down, because I might want this to be my top 5, honestly. And Bronn certainly deserves a spot in my top 5. Oh my goodness, there is no character in this show that has more of an impact compared to like who he is. He was just this like bandit sellsword. Let's go through some of his biggest moments, right? He fires the arrow. Well, okay, no, before that. He saves Tyrion, right? Very iconic scene when he fights that dude and he kicks him into the hole at the Eyrie, and he has all the best one-liners during that part. That's his first one. Season 2, Battle of the Blackwater. He fires the giant great arrow that explodes the frickin' what is it called? The wildfire that blows up Stannis' fleet. So there's that. He What else does he do? He becomes the head of the king's guard, right? Like what? He saves Jaime. Well, he goes with Jaime to Dorne, fights with Jaime, somehow survives that. When they come back, he marches with Jaime against the Tarly and saves Jaime's life against the dragon. And then in the final season, he gets his castle. He becomes the master of coin or whatever. That doesn't really make any sense, but I'm glad he gets his castle. Highgarden is the name that I forgot earlier. He gets Highgarden. And he's just the most charming, most like cool scumbag character in the whole show. Like, like a vagrant. And I love Bronn. He's going to go above Brienne. He's maybe my favorite. There's one other character that's going to be depending behind here, and it's not going to be who you expect either. There's one character that I'm sure you expect to be up here, but they will be, but it's someone else that might be number one. So Hodor. I love Hodor. I loved him from the start, obviously. Fun thing about Hodor is while the show was being released, he was actually on the Yog Pod, which is the Yogscast's old podcast. And I remember listening to that episode. I mean, I watched Game of Thrones a month ago. I listened to that episode 10 years before I ever watched Game of Thrones. But that's just a nice memory for me. But he is a great character, and I love his devotion to Bran, obviously, to Bran. But the one thing I really like about him is the reveal of his name about Hold the Door. That was really cool. That was like good writing for once. Late seasons. Hodor's awesome. He gets an A tier. Put him that's probably good. Above him. So this guy is the priest of the High Sept. I guess this is probably where I should talk about that arc. It felt a little shoehorned in, right? Well, it felt like certain characters did not react in the way that I felt like they would react. I felt like Cersei would have gone a lot more. Well, she did in the end, but maybe. Well, I'm not going to say Cersei because she. What's the word? She was just scheming, right? She just schemed and got what she wanted in the end. But Lancel kind of made sense because he was like a young lad. But characters like Tommen, where's Tommen? Where is he? I'm of a whole rant about Tommen too. I didn't already rank him, did I? There's Joffrey. Hold on, let's just go through these real quick. Where's Tommen? There he is. Oh my God, Tommen. Never during season 3 or season 2 would I think that I would have ever said, I miss Joffrey. Because I did miss Joffrey when I was watching that. Joffrey would not have put up with any of that. He would have marched right in there and got what he wanted, and that would have been nice to see. But Tommen was just too much of a spineless little lad. He didn't have any grit. He had absolutely no grit whatsoever, and he just bended, right? He just bended to this guy's will, and it was kind of cool to see. This guy's not a bad character. It was just some of the characters acted in an unnatural way that I didn't really like very much. So for that, he can get a B tier, though. Obviously very important in season 5 and 6. Maybe Marjorie was kind of questioning it, but freaking Loras just became a cuck too. It was just so weird. So this is Jakar, right? Corin Jakar, or whatever his name is, the Faceless Man. And I like him a lot. I like his whole arc. I like how he was kind of he wasn't really good when he was working, when he was helping Arya, but he really, wasn't, he became not as good. One sec, I'm going to reset my monitor, my webcam here. 1 second, please. 1 second. It's a little blurry. There we go. So yeah, it was just kind of a nice, creeping evil feeling from this guy and from his associate that I found myself to be really intrigued by. And for that, I'm going to give him an A tier, I think. He was a cool character for sure. I'm going to put him maybe like... That's probably good. So the dragon that gets killed by the White Walker and Night King and gets turned into a Night King dragon, or a White Walker dragon. I mean, that was pretty cool. It was a cool scene, but I watched a YouTube video and they were right to say, why didn't the Night King just attack Daenerys and Dracarys, even though because they were closer. But cool scene nonetheless. I'm just gonna put him with the lower dragon, probably maybe above the lower dragon, just for the factor, right? Just the cool factor of the scene. Kind of like, it wasn't like unexpected though. You know, I feel like, you know, you kind of expected that to happen. So is this, wait, hold on. So there's this guy and then, no, hey, there's this guy. So this is Aegon, right? Or is Aegon Jon Snow's real name? I don't remember. This is the older one, Rhaegar, the older one that died or something. I can't remember what happened to him, but he's not in the picture. And he might have been killed by big fella here, but he's not in the picture. And he was supposed to be like the good brother, right? The good sibling of the three, the oldest and the good one. But he passed away, so we don't really know about him. I'm gonna put him in C tier above Bran because Bran sucks. So Robert Baratheon was a great character in the early seasons. You know, he was the big fat jolly but, you know, strong as an ox warrior that he became the king, and then he kind of got lazy and all he wanted to do was drink and whore and hunt and do all the fun stuff, right? He didn't really want to be a king. And I liked him though. His death was pretty anticlimactic, maybe not in a bad way, but at the same time, I'm going to give him a B tier, probably like right there. That's a good spot for him. I don't remember who this is. Khal Drogo is a character that, you know, obviously not a good person. He was a cool warrior, Jason Momoa. Obviously, like, I don't know. I don't really have a lot to say about him. He dies from a wound infection and then gets brought back as a husk and then sits and watches the sunset. I'll give him a C tier, maybe like right there maybe. That's probably a good spot. So Jon Snow, or Aegon Targaryen, like that's his real name. Rhaegar, Aegon, it's one of the two. But he's actually a Targaryen. That's the whole big twist. But so when I said that there was a character that you might expect me to put at the top, you probably thought it was Jon Snow. Where in reality, I'm actually just going to put Jon Snow in A tier. I like Jon Snow. He's obviously the focal point of the show. And only in the later seasons does that really feel forced. I actually kind of like him being that guy in the early to mid seasons. But he just doesn't do it for me the way that other characters do. He's cool. I mean, a bunch of amazing moments, you know. I think maybe my favorite is when he spares Mance the horrible fate of burning and he shoots him with the arrow. That's probably his most memorable scene for me. But I'll give him a tier. He definitely deserves A. I'll put him with his awkward romance here. Well, yeah, I'll put him with his awkward romance with Daenerys here. They can be together. Oh, it pains me to have Barristan Selmy this low. I love this guy. So this was the... Wait, no, this is... Am I mixing them up? Wait. No, okay, so this is Qhorin Halfhand. I'm going to put him here. I'm going to keep this guy here too. I think this guy was just another one of Jon Snow's buddies that was kind of a... Wasn't he like the second in command of behind this... Or with Alistair? Like, where's Alistair? Like this guy and this guy were like the like officers maybe, and then this guy was the leader, something like that. I can't remember. I know who he is though. I remember liking him and thinking he was like a good dude, so I'll put him there. Oh man. Okay, so Joffrey Baratheon, Joffrey Lannister. He is a character that is so comically evil that at times I couldn't help but not like watching him. I think the one big example is there's this like kind of like political intrigue scene going on. I think it was with the small council, and he was like absent from the meeting or something, and they were like, "Where's Joffrey? Why isn't he at the meeting?" And then it just cold cuts to him in the bedroom pointing a giant crossbow at Sansa and like laughing maniacally. And oh man, he was so funny. He was so evil. He walked Sansa out and was like, "Look at your dad's head," or whatever. I don't know. He's obviously like the worst little shit in the whole show, but I'm gonna give him a high B tier. Where's Ramsay? So Ramsay's here. I'm gonna put Joffrey like maybe like here. He was just such a little shit, and I don't know. Whereas someone like this guy, someone like Sam's dad, or these three right here, any of these three, there was nothing fun about these characters to watch them on the screen. Whereas with Joffrey, there was, like, in my opinion, a lot to watch that was fun. He was just so comically evil that I think he weasels his way. Even in my ranking, he weasels his way into a high spot, relatively high spot. So this is like the tree ent guardian thing that like created the Godswood trees or whatever. Whatever, man. I kind of lost me. I won't lie. You kind of lost me with all that shit. Sure. I mean, they were pretty cool, right? Like, I like their powers with they had like spirit bombs or whatever. That was kind of cool, but C tier. So this guy, I don't know where he is in the tree. Is he Tywin's brother, maybe? But he kind of like took over a little bit in the later seasons, and I thought he was cool. You know, he didn't seem like he was as much of like a Giga Chad as like Tywin was, but at the same time, I mean, he commanded a lot of respect, and he was sort of like maybe a little bit more of a Tyrion-sided like speaker kind of guy, but still commanded a lot of respect as a top tier Lannister, right? So he can get a B tier from me. I can't remember his name. Put him next to old little Geoff here. Oh, Shireen, right? She had the rock scale, dragon scale thing, and the arc with Davos teaching her how to read. It was so sweet, and of course, you know, the Red Witch's manipulation, and that spelled the end for Stannis. That spelled the end. His choice to burn his daughter alive at the stake, something that I will never forgive Stannis for. Brutal scene. Brutal scene. Probably worse than seeing the kid get hanged. Shireen, you're a sweet lady, right? Let me put you, sweet little lady. Put you maybe like right in between these two. Come on, there we go. Gotta plug my headphones in. They just let me know they were low on battery. So, Roose Bolton, the sort of, I mean, he is the one that actually does the deed of killing Robb Stark. Lannister send their regards, and he was cool. He was a little bit more of a one note than Ramsay. I definitely like Ramsay more. They were both evil bastards, of course. He had this, frankly, giant woman as his wife, which I didn't really understand. I think it was just to show that it was all political, right? But, you know, Ramsay ends up killing him and whatever. I'm going to give him a C tier, whatever about this guy. Put him next to Walt. Put him next to these. These four right here are like the perfect example of what I mean of like, it's not necessarily about the moral, because if these guys were moral, they'd all be an F tier. It was just a moral ranking, but I don't know. They all offered a little bit of like enjoyment on the screen, maybe. I don't know. Whereas these characters, I just didn't want to see them. I just didn't want to see them on the screen. This guy was the wildling, the cannibal guy, and he was, "Rah, I'm scary, rah, I'm gonna eat you, rah." Whatever, fuck off, man. Get down there. This guy was pretty cool. He was the leader of or maybe he was just the spokesperson for the bank, the Iron Bank of Bravos. And I like the whole idea of like there's this bank that they don't meddle in the politics. They don't really yield to kings and queens. They were just kind of like about the money, and that was like their whole. They were very analytical in that way, and I think he gets a B tier. Not really that important of a character, but I liked his whole motif. I thought he was pretty cool. So maybe like that's probably good. Oh, fuck you, Tommen. I hate this kid, man. He's literally with the most beautiful woman in the show, and he just bends. He just bends like a freaking glow stick to the whole Sept storyline. And like I said, I missed Joffrey the whole time. I was like, Joffrey, please come back. But he was poisoned, so he couldn't come back. So, Tommen, I'm gonna give you an F tier. I'm gonna put you next to Pycelle. That's how much I don't like you. Nothing redeem. The whole thing. I guess the whole point of it was like, okay, he was gonna be like the good king, right? The good young king. But then it showed the consequences of that, because he was so easily manipulated. So yeah, F tier. Okay, so Jaime. Throughout the entire show, Jaime Lannister was one of my favorite characters of the whole show. But I will say that alongside Bran, Jaime had my least favorite ending in the whole show. He was growing, and with Brienne, he was growing as a person. And he did some of the most despicable stuff in the whole show. He killed that guy in the cell who loved him, and he was just a really, really bad person. And then he got what was coming to him. I mean, they chopped his hand off and dragged him through the dirt, and they should have killed him, right? They couldn't kill him because of his importance as a person in the realm, but for him to truly get what he deserved, they should have killed him. But it didn't mean I didn't like him as a character. I enjoyed his storyline. It was just his ending that I hated so much. Alongside Bran, he died in that tomb hugging Cersei, and I was just like, what was it all for? Guys, what was it all for? What was all the character development for? Oh, I'm lightheaded. Jaime, I love you, man. You're a great character. I'm going to put you even above Cersei. I love you so much, but that ending was so bad. It's only all of the great moments you had before that saves you from like a C tier placement here, my man. Sergio Farrell. The fact that I remember that name, despite him being such a minor character, really shows how cool he was. He was Arya's sword master, and he fought 1-on-5 against Meryn Trant, and they had full armor, and he had a stick. He fought 1-on-5 against him and almost won. He got him down to the last guy, and he was sick. He was just so cool. A tier. For what little I'll put him next to his sword master buddy, Oberyn. Man, I feel like I'm maybe disrespecting Ned a little bit, but it's my list, so here we are. Viserys was the brother who sold Daenerys to Khal Drogo, and he thought that he was going to kind of come out on top on all of this, and he was just sorely mistaken, right? He got the Midas touch in the end, and I like that death a lot, but what a shitter, right? Probably there. It's probably good for him. So this guy was the jester who turned out to just kind of be one of Littlefinger's pawns to get the freaking poison to Joffrey and all that, right? To Marjorie's grandma or whatever, and just part of that whole scheme. And then Littlefinger just shoots him with a crossbow. He was kind of a cool part of a plot, so I'm not going to give him D tier. Sure. Kind of getting down to it now. I only got a few left, or 30 left, right? What's his name? I said it earlier. Lancel. Another one of Cersei's incestuous boy toys. He was a kind of a nothing character. He was kind of just like Robert's wine boy at the start, and then he was sort of the big impact character of the Sept arc. And I didn't feel that was an unnatural sort of thing. I really didn't. I thought that he was a good kind of character to choose for a role like that. And for that, I'll give him a C tier for how lackluster the Sept arc really was. I'll give him there. Hot Pie. I like Hot Pie a lot. He was with Arya and Gendry, and they were imprisoned at the place that the mountain ran, and they watched all the torture happen, and he went through it. And I love how he got like a really good ending. He just ended up at some inn, and they really liked how good he was at cooking, so he was hired on at the inn, and he makes Arya the wolf pot pie or whatever, and that was really cute. He was just a cool guy, and just such an inoffensive character too. Like, I'm gonna give him a B tier. I really like him a lot. Probably like here. Top of B tier. I love you, hot pie. So Tywin. Shit, there's more characters going in S tier than I thought. Tywin probably deserves it, right? He is the sort of no nonsense patriarch of the Lannisters, and let me look. Let me look here. Well, actually, this might be a little surprising to some people. Tywin is an amazing character. I love that he's the straight man. I love that he is sort of this just hard man, right? Like, that's his like whole thing. And he wants what's best for the family. That's his whole thing. Not what's best for the people in the family, but what's best for the family as an idea. And he's just a really well-written character, right? I think he dies in a cool way, and he dies at the right time before the writing just plummeted. So he was kind of saved from getting stinkified. But that being said, I'm not going to put him in S tier. It's not going to be quite this low. But I am going to put him like probably... Is that fair to say? Yeah. I'm going to put him here. I kind of like that these three are together, and I think that this is the order that I would put them in, so I'm going to keep them like this. He is a really, really strong character, though. If you have him up here, I don't blame you. I don't blame you one bit. I really don't. I think that he is kind of I'm not going to say inspirational character. He's just like he's admirable. I don't know. I like Tywin a lot. I like his sort of hard edge approach that he just made sense too. That's another way to say it. He made sense as a character. So Loras Tyrell was the sort of secret gay boy of the show, right? Like, he was in such a high position, but he just loved dudes, right? He loved getting it on with dudes. And that was like a big problem because, obviously in medieval times, they don't really want you to be doing all that. But he got with Renly, and then he got with this blonde boy. Where's the blonde boy at? Somewhere in here. Excuse me. Where's blonde boy? So many characters. Not as many as One Piece, but there's a lot. This blonde boy, he got with him, I think. But I like Loras. He got gimped in the Sept arc. It kind of made sense that he would just eventually crack, but he had a B tier, Maybe right above his Sept brother, right? I think that... Oh, yeah, look, Marjorie's right there. Look at how this works out. This is weird. We got these three. We got the Lannister trio. Tyrion obviously ascended. We've got the sort of creepy quad here. Creepy old man quad here. And then we've got the one that I just mentioned. So we got Littlefinger. A character that I think in the early seasons was maybe one of the strongest characters writing wise. He's the biggest schemer. There's two schemers, and he is one of them. And he got a lot done with his tongue, right? He was able to kind of manipulate a lot of characters and kind of get the outcomes that he wanted in very like kind of roundabout ways. And he ends up getting executed by Arya, which was kind of a weird scene, but also kind of a cool scene. I don't really know how I feel about it. A tier character. Let's give him maybe like right here. That's a good spot. Almost feels a little low, but I mean, these characters right here are all very strong, so it makes sense. Okay, Locke. Controversy time. Locke is not a good person. He cutting the hand off of Jamie, I mean, deserved, right? But they were going to do bad things to Brienne. They were in the process of doing that. And he is definitely just like a scummy, like enforcer type. He went undercover and ended up getting killed up in Craster's Keep. But something about this guy, I don't know. I like him. I don't know why. I don't know what it was that I liked about him. But there was the one scene where he sings The Bear and the Maiden Fair with his goons, right? That elevates him. But something about his character, I don't really know what it is. This is just going to be offensive to some people, I know, but I'm going to put him, I can't put him that high, can I? Let's just put him right here. He doesn't, by all metrics, he doesn't deserve to be this high, but it's a subjective list, and I thought he was a cool character, so I'm going to put him there. Was this Lyanna? Flashback Lyanna? Assuming that, wait, let me look. Yeah. That's the only person this can be, so assuming this is flashback Lyanna, obviously a very important character to the whole Jon thing and the sort of before the series began type shit. Maybe a solid low B. Like, I can't give a flashback character. Well, she's very important, and I'll put her above. That's fine. That's Davos' son. He was a very religious man, very minor character. And he died at the initial explosion caused by Bronn and Tyrion's plot at the Battle of the Blackwater with the wildfire. Whatever, man. You don't do nothing for me. Maybe like... So I said earlier that I kind of felt bad for this guy. This is Sam's older brother that kind of stood with his dad and died. I'm not going to quite give him... I'll give him like a C tier. I felt bad because he didn't seem like that bad of a dude. He was just kind of like the first son, so like, and he had like a codger as his father, so he had like a lot of expectations placed on him, and he just got cooked. He just got cooked by Dracarys, and that was that. So this is the recipient of the 14-year-old breastfeeding from this crazy woman. He was kind of funny at the end when he was trying to shoot the bow. Whatever. I'm gonna put it down here because he was really annoying at the start, right? Really annoying in the early seasons. Put him just above his crazy mom. Meryn Trant, coward, pedo. What other words can you say, right? Horrible, horrible person, and not in a way that's fun to watch. So I'm gonna put him down here with. I almost want to put him even below Pycelle and this guy, but that's probably good. Okay. So here is one of two characters left that certainly going in S tier, but could be my favorite character. We have Sandor Clegane, or the Hound. He was a great character at the start, right? With kind of being the good half he like helped Sansa in like the second season and stuff, and he was kind of shown to have a heart under all that iron. But what really elevated him for me was the later seasons, specifically his time with Arya, the mid-seasons, I guess. His time with Arya, and then his time with the Brotherhood. That is what elevated him to being maybe the best character in the show. I think I'm going to put him second. He's not... I just like Bronn a little bit more, but that's correct for me. Who did I just move? I think I moved Jon, but I didn't actually move him. I'm going to... Wait... No, I moved this dog. Dogs have to stay within the realm of the dragons. Flashback, right? I don't know. Above Ed Sheeran jump scare for sure. This guy was a boss. He did not yield to Theon and his insurrection. And thus he was sentenced to the block to be decapitated. And Theon was such a little bitch boy that he could not cut off this thick man's head in one go, so he had to hack away at it. And that was kind of embarrassing and sad for this guy, but he was a boss. He was kind of like Catelyn's like guy, right? B tier for sure, above Catelyn, maybe. Man, Grey Worm and these two are low. Let's move. No, honestly, there's just so many good characters that they kind of are down here for a reason. I'll put her like maybe here. Yeah, let's do like this. And then I'll put them. That's probably good. Okay. The youngest of the Lannister daughters was kind of sent off to Dorne, and Cersei was really mad about that and ended up getting killed by this lady with the kiss of death, and then Cersei got her revenge with the same way. She seemed like a nice girl, you know. I'm not gonna like hate on her. I'll put her here in the bottom of C, so these two can like technically be together, but they're a world apart. Well, no, they can whatever. Tormund was the wildling who ended up kind of becoming friends with Jon. He had a big crush on Brienne, which I thought was really funny, and he was a good dude. Like he was just a crazy wild man, right? And that was kind of his whole thing. And for that, you can. I almost want to give him an A. Does he deserve an A? I'll just give him a high B, maybe just right behind Hot Pie. Well, is that disrespectful to him? No, it's not. The Mad King, obviously not a character that we see much of in the show, but he was kind of the whole catalyst for everything that took place with Robert and Ned, and eventually the War of the Five Kingdoms. So, for being such an important flashback character, I'll give him a C tier above some other maybe with this guy, right? Dowg, take your place within the realm of the dragons. Can't remember. Was she the one that was like friends with Sansa at the beginning? I haven't seen that person yet. She was like the old handmaid who would like do Sansa's hair. I'm going to assume that's who this... can I make assumptions? I don't know who this is, so I'm not going to make assumptions. This is the eldest Tyrell, the matriarch of the Tyrells of Highgarden, and she was a boss, right? I mean, she orchestrated the assassination of Joffrey. She took no shit. And when Jaime came to slay her, she confessed. She was like, haha, gotcha, dummy. I took the poison. I gotcha. See you later. That was me who killed Joffrey. See you later, dummy. And she died very gracefully. Definitely a cool character. Definitely A tier. Maybe like there. That's probably good. This guy was like the wizard that Daenerys had to like deal with the dragons. He got cooked alive by a baby dragon, but he was like some crazy magic guru wizard guy, and he could like clone himself. He was pretty cool, you know. Kind of a weird magic thing that, you know, maybe didn't really make too much sense, but that's okay. He was cool. I'll give him like a low B for being cool, maybe very bottom of B. This guy was the worst of the mutineers at Craster's Keep. So he was originally brought there for doing horrible things to women, and he was just a shitter the whole time. He clearly was just wanted to kill Jon and wanted to do horrible things, and he was just all around just a bad person. So boom, down here, maybe like right there. This was the Lord of Bones. Very minor character, very cool fit. Tormund ended up just beating his ass. Just for the clean fit. I mean, I'll put him next to the little girl. This was... I think he was actually the son of the Tyrell lady, even though they look about the same age. This guy was a total pushover. He just kind of did whatever Joffrey said and whatever Tywin said, and was kind of relegated to the grunt work despite his high status. D tier, above Ed Sheeran jump scare, maybe like probably top of D tier. He's not as offensive as he's not as offensive as these other characters, but I don't really feel anything about him. This guy, put him there, maybe like, that's good. So Renly Baratheon was Stannis' younger brother, and kind of like, he was a kind man, right? He also enjoyed the company of dudes, specifically Loras. And he died because Stannis casted a freaking spell and killed him. What an insane scene. He was a good dude though. You know, like he seemed like maybe the best choice and that's why he had to die early on, because he was too good of a choice to be king. Let's give him a nice high B, maybe. That's probably good. I'm going to have to do some reorganizing here. We'll see. Robb Stark. I don't know, you guys. I don't know about Robb Stark. I'm sure a lot of people see him as like the gallant man, and he was the first son of the Starks and all of this, but look. I mean, he put the box over his family, over the war. He put it over everything. He could have just married the Frey girl and never saw her, kind of like how the Lannisters do it. And he could have been with his freaking foreign bride or whatever, this lady. He could have worked it out, right? But he was too stupid to work it out, so he died. And for that, this may be really offensive. Low B probably, right? Like there. Like there. That's probably going to offend some people if they actually watch this video, but that's fine. Little Sam. Cool little baby boy. Product of incest, but maybe that won't matter too much. Got to be above Craster, maybe like whatever. The Night King, pretty cool character, kind of a wet fart at the end with Arya killing him and everything. It's just, I don't know if the show could have lived up to the potential, and for that I'm going to give him a B tier, because I feel like the show, I'll put him above the dragons and stuff. No, below the dragons. What am I saying? The show, I feel like with the hype, it couldn't have lived up to it. And so I'm not going to be too harsh on it. And I think he gets a B tier for that. The scene, my favorite scene with the Night King is when it's him and his 4 horsemen and they're up on the hill when Jon comes to get the wildlings. That is a wallpaper for sure. This was the enforcer of the Sept. She whipped everybody and stuff, and then obviously Cersei got the last laugh with her too and tortured her and all that. Where's the frickin' Sept guy? I put him in B tier. I'm gonna put where's the Sept guy? That's not the Sept guy. There. She gets a spot down. She gets a C tier with Tommen. Maybe these two can be together. This is Stannis' wife. I really didn't like her because she was so adamant about the Lord of Light and about sacrificing people and all this and that. But then when it came to her daughter and push came to shove and her daughter got sacrificed, she freaking hanged herself in the woods. So maybe you shouldn't have been about it in the first place, you stinker. And that's probably cold for some people, but I don't know. I'm going to put her in D tier. Probably like right here. Right here. What's this cute kitty? I feel like I should know this cute kitty, but I actually don't. That's Faye, Shay, the whore that old Tyrion shacks up with and eventually falls in love with. But it all kind of comes apart, and she ends up getting with Tywin, and that's what causes Tyrion to just snap and kill them both. And that's big uppies for Tyrion for that whole sequence, but big downies for Shay. She gets a C tier, almost even a D tier. I'll give her a C tier for her good moments at the start, though. Maybe there. So this guy is like the ultimate like Antifa ass, protester ass, cringy ass kind of guy, right? He's just so like, I must do what's right for the people. I must, this is not how it's supposed to be, right? With Daenerys and everything, and he was like scheming and going behind her back and stuff, and he got cooked for that, and he definitely deserved it. Definitely an F tier, maybe right there is probably good. Wolfie goes with the wolfies. Okay, so there's one more character that might contend for S class after this. And this is definitely my most controversial pick in the whole series. Stannis, something about him. It's like Locke. Where's Locke? I put him in A tier, right? It's like Locke cranked up to 100. Something about Stannis just drew me to him. I don't know what it was. I think he's the only character in any fiction that I would ever attribute a positive word to, and that word would be like manly. He was just like so honor bound and so like determined and so like he was just about it. He was just so about it. And obviously he did horrible things. He was sacrificing people. He freaking sacrificed his daughter at the stake, something that I can never forgive him for. But even I saw some people complaining about this, but in my opinion, even the shitty writing of the later seasons could not save him from being such a boss when he's up against that tree and he just looks at Bran's like, yeah, go on, do your duty. She cuts him down. And I don't know. The best scene is when he rides beyond the wall with Davos and he shows up. That was such a like jaw-dropping moment. He definitely deserves an S tier. He might be my favorite character in the series, guys. I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna put him there for now. I don't know what to say. Sorry, my dad came in. So back to what I was saying. We're in the home stretch here. So Stannis is I don't know why he's my favorite character. I can't describe it. The fact that he casted a spell was pretty cool, and when he rode beyond the wall was pretty cool. Even in this picture, there's just something about the look in his eyes that's my guy. And I wouldn't ride with him because of what he did to Shireen and all of that. I can't move him anywhere else but there, though. He's locked in. I'm grabbing him and I'm trying to push him down to A tier. I can't move him. He's my favorite character. So the foreign medic woman that Robb Stark falls in love with, and it ends up costing him his life, his mother's life, his wife's life, everything. It cost him everything because of this mistake that he made. And it just kind of felt like such like a Mickey Mouse Funhouse plot line, and the Red Wedding was kind of the reality of that this is Game of Thrones. This isn't Mickey Mouse Funhouse. And I don't know, she kind of irked me. She kind of irked me as a character. I'm going to put her with old Robb. No, I'll put her even lower because Robb had some good moments. Maybe like bottom of C tier, probably. This guy was sent to the wall from King's Landing, so he was used to he was a city boy, right? This guy was a city boy, and so he was sent to the wall, and he was not used to it, and he could not hang at the wall, so he was just a stinker. He was really sort of a stinker, and I'm going to give him Stinker's honors in F tier. Mance Rayder was a really cool character. He was the leader of the wildlings. He brought together all of the tribes. I love a character that unifies groups. One Piece has that with Iceberg. I love a character that can take all these different groups and unify them. Like that's a really cool like concept, right? And he didn't waver. He didn't bend the knee. He paid the price for it, right? So Mance, and the way that the wildlings kind of admired him, I thought was a really kind of cool sign. A tier, maybe there. Oh, sorry, B tier, probably there. So Varys, I love Varys. Look at this picture. Look at how like lumpy he is. He is the other big schemer of the show, and I would say he's even a bigger schemer than Littlefinger. He was so always manipulating and always doing all these different little schemes, and it was just a pleasure to watch, right? It really was. He kind of helped Tyrion get out of King's Landing after killing Tywin, and they went to Daenerys and all that. And once again, like similar to Tyrion, he kind of got gimped at the end, right? He kind of got bad writing-ified, but for all of the moments of the good writing, he is definitely one of the best characters in the series. I'm going to put him like there. That's probably a good spot for him. So this is the enforcer of the faceless people who was fighting with Arya and chasing her down. And that was just one of the coolest set pieces of the whole show, right? It really was just like this really sick sort of, and she was scary too. Like the way she like smiled and like came at you, it was like a horror movie. She was cool. Definitely very intimidating. I'm just going to put her with the other guy for sure. Was it A tier? Jaqana Carr or whatever. Put him right behind her. Right behind him. That's good. So this was the massive webcam again. Oh, it's good. So this is the massive woman that Roose Bolton married, and it seemed like it was maybe just for I think it was just for political reasons, and that was like the whole point of her character. Whatever. You can go here with this other useless one. Very awesome giant, wildling giant that battled with the blonde dude right here. I think they should be together in death, these two, because they had an off-screen battle that rivals any battle in the series. Jorah Mormont is potentially our last S tier character. I love him. I love that he is a dude who made the wrong decisions in the past and was just, the whole show was just trying to rectify them. And he fell in love with this younger woman, and she didn't love him back. She loved other guys instead, but it didn't bother him. It wasn't, he wasn't being selfish about it and going, wah, wah, wah. He just wanted to help her and make sure she was all right. And whatever she wanted, he wanted, kind of thing. But it wasn't like a white knight simp thing. He was just a good dude, and it never felt forced or anything. And I just loved his character. I love that he got the stone skin, and then Sam helped him, and he went back. Even after all that, he returned to Daenerys, and absolutely amazing character. I'm gonna put him here above Beric. Yeah, that's good. Ooh, that's a good list right there. Okay, so this was where's the ghoul? I put the ghoul somewhere. The ghoul. This was the one that Daenerys wanted to marry Daenerys, and he was the other leader alongside this ghoul guy. And he supposedly had all the wealth in the vault, but he actually didn't have the wealth. Oh yeah, this freaking lady ended up sleeping with. I'm moving her down for that because she betrayed Daenerys. Right there. This guy's a stinker. He's certainly a stinker. He's not as cool as this dude with the cool ghoul powers. They can be together in death. That's fine. Gilly. Gilly's awesome. She was Craster's daughter that Sam kind of fell in love with, and they ended up leaving and escaping the fright beyond the wall, which I thought was really cool. She's cool, she's a nice lady. Definitely deserves a B tier. Where's Sam? I can't put her up here with these people. Let's put her pretty high though. Maybe like there. That's a good spot. And last character in the list, we got Thoros of Myr, the priest that sort of communed with the Lord of Light to revive Beric over and over again. And even he was like, I don't understand this at all. He ended up dying north of the wall, I think, and he was just a great character. I think he got hurt, and then they went to bed, and then on the ice lake, and he just didn't wake up. I just love that even he was like, I don't know why the Lord of Light loves this guy so much. And he had a lot of cool moments with Arya and Gendry and stuff. I'm going to give him an A tier. I'll probably put him mid-A, maybe there. That's a good spot for him. And yeah, there you have it. So we've got this tier list here. 148 images, 148 characters we just ranked in about an hour and a half. Let's get the full list here. Can I Okay, so obviously the big controversy is that Stannis is the number one, but I can't describe it, y'all. I just can't describe it. If I wasn't so smitten by this guy, he'd probably be maybe there, but it's just the aura. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I'm going to put him here. He has my favorite character in the series. Let me look at these. Yeah, so I would say that this is how I would rank with that 7. These are my top 7 characters in Game of Thrones right here. We got Stannis Baratheon, Bronn, Sandor Clegane, Brienne of Tarth, Tyrion Lannister, Jorah Mormont, and Beric Dondarrion as my 7 favorite characters in the show. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I think I'm going to try to make some more videos soon. And, if you're watching this and you enjoyed it, let me know what other shows I should watch. Let me know what other tier lists I should make. Please. I watch anime. I watch shows. I play games. I read books. Let me know. And thanks for watching. Peace, peace.